Education. It is an essential part of everyone's life that all begins in our classrooms. Not only is it important to those students who are grown and shaped through their school career, but with the parents, teachers, family, and government alike. We are their future, the fruits of their labor. It leaves us to wonder, is such an important enterprise such as this the best that it can be in Ontario? If you don't already know, there is not one unified school board. In fact, there are four, divided between English and French, and then each further into public and Catholic. A publicly funded Catholic school system has existed since the birth of Canada, and was implemented to protect Catholic values at a time where most Canadians were indeed Catholics. But does this in fact represent Canada today? Canadians who identify themselves as Christians make up roughly two-thirds of the population as of 2011. There exist many substantial minorities, nearly 8 million people that have no religious affiliation, as well as an additional million who represent the Muslim, Hindu, Jewish, Sikh, and Buddhist faiths. It is undoubtedly important to protect the right of all religious affiliations to practice their faith, but at what cost? A man named Mike Evans expresses his concerns through a program called the One School System Network.
So our member organizations are united in two core beliefs. One is that funding two separate school systems is a tremendous waste of taxpayer dollars. In fact, we calculate that up to $500 million and certainly hundreds of $1,000,000 is spent on duplication costs, so the cost of having two bureaucratic institutions instead of one. The second belief that we're united in is that segregating children on the basis of their parents' religion is detrimental to their social development, especially in a pluralistic, multicultural society like Canada. And we feel that in order to foster tolerance and cooperation, all children should be schooled together in a multicultural and pluralistic setting that reflects the wider society that they'll eventually be working in.
Okay. Well, there are cases where students who are not Catholic can attend the school. So how does that work in with this idea of collaborating, bringing everyone together?
Yes, it's not a strict rule that that a child has to be Catholic in order to attend a Catholic school, and of course there are exceptions made. However, the Catholic School Board does retain the explicit right to make that decision, and so because they have that right, they often exercise it, and they often do exclude some students in order to bring on Catholic students.
The funding of Catholic schools has been a constitutional right since Confederation. How do you propose to change it?
Luckily, we live in a country that has a constitution that can be amended, and this has happened before. Both Quebec and Newfoundland eliminated their, I would call, archaic constitutional obligations to fund faith-based schools, both during the 1990s. And this can be done with it's called a bilateral constitutional amendment, and it requires the cooperation, the agreement of the province in question and the federal government. So this has been done twice in the last 20 years, and it can be done again, and all it takes is political will.
Each school board, there are an extensive amount of staff. Trustees, members of council, directors, budgeters, and countless other employees managing the education of their respective students. So why have it separate and create double the staff, and in turn, expenses for the government and the people? Looking at all the Catholic and public high schools and elementary schools in Ontario, it quickly becomes obvious that the Catholic schools are far nicer than the public schools. The reason being that Catholic schools not only receive money from the government, but also from the church. As well, enrollment in Catholic schools is up compared to that of public schools, because there's a perception among Ontarians that their children receive a better education there, which is justifiable. With more money comes better resources, teachers, and experience for students. For example, Bishop Ryan Catholic Secondary School recently underwent extensive remodeling and has a professional football field, track, and a school building that is comparable to that of a university, while public schools, such as our very own Orchard Park, have a tight budget where necessities such as paper are in limited quantities. Let's see what students have to think about their public education and the idea of merging the school boards.
I think we should each get, it should be distributed equally, the wealth. Because if you look at a public school, I mean, they're so run down, and we don't even have paper at some of these schools. And the Catholic schools, they have everything. They get brand new football fields because they believe in God. brand new air conditioning units because they believe in God. So yeah, I think it should just be integrated as one without religion.
But it'd be nice if it was all together instead. I think that would be a much better option. Yes, I feel that religion should be separate from education. I feel this because religion gets in the way of clear judgment and no bias. See, when students are, I don't want to say segregated because it's not total segregation, but when students are limited in what they can achieve academically due to their religion, it's absolutely criminal. So that's why religion should be separate from education.
And it's not only students that feel this way. The Oak Ridge's Markham Young Liberal Association, which is a collective group of teachers and concerned citizens, the Teachers Union, and of course the aforementioned One School System Network, have all made proposals to merge the board, as well as expressing concerns over the current status of the school system. Some even citing savings up to $1.2 billion with the downsizing in staff. So how has the government addressed this issue? With very little response. Politicians are hesitant to address this topic because of its inherent sensitivity. There would be obvious outrage from Catholic families and schools complaining of the infringement on their religious rights and freedoms. But the reality is that in today's world and the country we live in, we can't have this sort of religious segregation. No other separate religious schools are funded by the government. If a Catholic school system is needed to be in place, it shouldn't be paid for or supported through taxpayer dollars. And more importantly, the education of students in public schools shouldn't have to suffer because of it. So what are the next steps? The only thing to do is use our freedom of speech to express our concerns for education equality. Get teachers, parents, and the community involved until there comes a time where it is clear that such an outdated concept can be modernized for the betterment of everyone. Students are the future, and we should prepare them for whatever is ahead with that ever-important foundation of education.